You're listening to the AmWritingFantasy Podcast. In today's publishing landscape, you can reach fans all over the world. Query letters are a thing of the past. You don't even need a literary agent. There is nothing standing in the way of making a living from writing. Join two best-selling authors who have self-published more than 20 books between them. Now, on to the show with your hosts, Autumn Burt and Jasper Schmidt.
Hello, I am Jasper.
And I'm Autumn.
So this is episode 36 of the AmWritingFantasy Podcast. And today we're going to talk about how to handle bad reviews. And I think this might hurt a bit, Autumn.
I think it might, but we'll try to. You can't make everyone happy. So you're going to end up with a bad review eventually. So, we're going to talk about how to handle that personally and professionally.
Yeah, and speaking of not being able to make everybody happy, I recently managed to piss off an 11-year-old boy so badly that he didn't want to shake my hand.
That's horrible. You are such a meanie. What did you do to him?
Yeah, well, I'm apart from writing, it, Autumn, but the listener might not. But apart from writing, I'm also a professional soccer referee. And, we call it football here, but you guys call it soccer. So I'll try to remember to say that. But just know that if I keep saying football, then I mean soccer. But I'm also a soccer referee. And recently I was out refereeing this match for 11-year-olds. And you should think when you are refereeing 11-year-olds, as an adult, it should not really be a problem in sort of managing things, and usually it isn't. But the thing that also happened was that over the summer here, the International Football Association, or Soccer Association, changed some of the rules. So beforehand, it was so that when you the goalkeeper and you're inside your own penalty area, if you did not kick the ball straight out of the penalty area, the ball was not in play, meaning that the attackers are not allowed to attack the ball. But then they changed the rules over the summer so that as soon as the ball is touched, it's in play, meaning that the attacker is allowed to run inside the penalty area and attack. So in this particular match, that's exactly what the guy did. So the goalkeeper touched the ball, the attacker runs into the penalty area and scores a goal.
Oh.
And you should think, well, that's fine because they changed the rules, so you're allowed to do that, right?
Right.
But, of course, nobody except the referees ever read the rules. So both the players and the coaches were, getting pretty upset and angry because I, of course, said that this is a goal. They didn't like that.
Oh, no.
So this 11-year-old boy, he was on the team that was scored against, and he got incredibly angry. And, of course, I tried, to explain to them that this is now the new rules and that's normal and so forth. But he got so incredibly angry. And then by the end of the match, we always practice fair play. So meaning that you're always saying thank you for the match to the other players, but also to the other team, but also to the referee. And this 11-year-old boy, he walked straight past me. He didn't even look at me. He just walked straight past me. Did not want to say, thank you for the match or anything. Jesus.
Wow.
Like
you were dissed.
It's completely by 11-year-old. It's like, what the hell is going on?
That's pretty harsh.
Yeah. It's that was an experience, I guess I could call it.
I don't know if I'm impressed because that is usually like a very adult or at least a teenager thing to do, but 11 years old.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wow. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it actually surprised me a bit, to be honest. I mean, usually when if I'm out refereeing like the 16, 17-year-olds, then it happens more often than not that the losing team is they always say thank you for the match, but they do it like, thank you for the match, angry. And the winning team are always happy. They always like, yeah, thank you for the match. You good referee and blah, blah, blah. And then the losing team they feel that it's all shit. It's the same thing every time. It's incredible.
True. It gets so emotional even when you're trying not to be, that I could see how everyone gets, especially young. You're still dealing with emotions. You're about to hit puberty if you're not hitting it. It's all kind of crazy time of your life.
Yeah, but it's not only the young one. I mean, I had, also just the other day I was out, but this was a 17-year-old match.
Okay.
And it was actually the coach that went ballistic. Oh. And he's an adult, so he doesn't have the teenage excuse he can use, but he went completely ballistic.
Oh no!
So yeah. It happens. But it's an emotional game, and in sports, emotions run high. And then after the match, he came over and said he apologized and said that I was actually right. So he said, "I'm sorry, I just got a bit carried away." So that's fine. But you have to stomach quite a bit, just like with bad reviews. But you have to stomach quite a bit when you are a referee.
That is true, and so yes, well, that does really relate of just how to deal with unpleasant situations. Now, one thing we mentioned, we were talking last week or our last episode, and we had talked about the Netflix show The Rain, and I had said that there was one I was watching recently that I'm just so amazed by the storytelling, which is unusual, and the acting. It's totally hooked me to the point where I've stopped even wondering what's going to happen because I know the writers will surprise me.
Which one is that then?
It is called Lucifer. Have you heard of this one?
Oh, yeah. Well, shit. Now you touched on that one. Yeah, I gave up on it.
Really?
I watched I don't know, maybe 6-7 episodes or something like that. And then I was like, oh my God, I can't take this anymore.
I have to say, the main character is over the top, and there's times I'm definitely squirming in personal embarrassment at how egotistical Lucifer is.
Right.
But the character development and the story arcs and what happens in each episode, recently as one started with a character who was waking up from an event. So the nurse said you were touched by death. And you feel sympathy because no one's visited him, but he's all chipper, and you're really excited that he is going to go and he is ready to have his second chance at life. And not to give anything away, it flips it on its head. And every episode actually kind of goes like that, where what you expect to happen is not what happens, to the point where I no longer know what I'm going to expect to happen. So
that's what you want.
Yeah, it's amazing storytelling, and I had to look it up because I saw at the beginning that it happened to have Neil Gaiman's name in there at the beginning credits, and I realized I had to go look it up, and it was actually because this character of Lucifer is actually based on a character that came out of Sandman, which Neil Gaiman wrote. But I kind of could see why, where this character stems from and why these writers are just really good to come up with this, turning everything on its head to the point where, I usually like to figure out plots. I usually can see what's going to happen. And I've pretty much just given up, and I just didn't sit back and enjoy it. Though, like I said, there's definitely times I think I had to get past, I think, even 6 episodes before I really kind of got my hooked. And there's still occasional episodes where I'm like, oh, darn, this one was not my favorite, which is really unfortunate. But there are others that I have to say, it's just amazing bits of storytelling, and it's truly worth it. It should give any authors some inspiration of having a character and stopping and thinking, what is the last possible thing anyone's going to expect to happen? And saying, this is what's going to have to happen, and how can I make this happen? Because it's just turns everything on its head. It keeps you guessing, and then it just becomes wonderful to watch and never to have been disappointed. I'm in season 3, I believe, and it's there's 4 seasons, and I'm enjoying how long they are, and only watch one a day because that's the way we're still on the road. We're still living this wanderer gypsy lifestyle.
Right. Yeah.
And so that is our kind of our wind down time after dinner. We watch one whole episode on iPad, is our huge big screen TV in our camper. And then it's lights out and time for bed.
Oh my God. Great.
A week on the internet with the AmWritingFantasy Podcast.
Oh, actually, Autumn, you mentioned, I remember now, last episode, you also mentioned stories by Iris, how she's commenting on different things. And I guess I'm not going to turn into this repeating things by talking about Iris, but I have to say, I'm amazed of how active she is. And I think you also told me offline, Autumn, that she shares and comments a lot on Instagram or something like that. But
yeah,
I think
Irish and I
maybe
talk
just
a
give
lot
her
on
one more shout out for thank you for all the comments.
Definitely big shout out to Irish and big hug and love talking to you on Instagram. I wish I'd been there more recently, but between some issues where I actually took even a little bit of a social media break, but then I do freelance work while traveling and have been doing some really big book covers and other stuff, and I actually hit my data limit. And so now my internet is throttled for the next 4 days, and even Instagram is not loading for me. So I'm also on another social media break, unless I happen to be sitting at a cafe. So I'll get back to you. Anyone who has left me a comment, I will be back. Maybe Monday, I hope. So that should happen very soon. But that's always the fun of life on the road, is sometimes things don't go as planned. I think that's true with anything in life.
Yeah, I'm amazed that you can stomach it, to be honest. I mean, you and I have talked about it before. I mean, it's like, so during the summer vacations, for example, we often like to go to Finland. My wife is Finnish, so we go to Finland on vacation. And we like to rent summer cottages in Finland. But, Finland is like, it's a huge country. And there is quite a lot of summer cottages that you can rent. But because the distances are quite big, it's not as big as in the US, but the distance between, a summer cottage and a city can be, way too much of a distance for them to connect summer cottages to the drainage systems or electricity systems or whatnot. So it's more common than not that your summer cottages will have no electricity, and you'll sort of have a shed that you go to do your toilet business in and stuff like that. And for my wife, it's fine. She grew up with that stuff, and so she's like, well, that's fine. And I tried it one year, like many years ago, one of the summer vacations, I tried it out. And I was just like, afterwards, I told my wife, I'm never going to do this again. Never, ever. I cannot live with like minimal. I'm too much of a luxury person. I need my running water. I need my showers. I need my internet. so nowadays, when we have to rent a summer cottage, there's very limited possibilities for us, because I only accept to rent something that has all those facilities, and most of them don't. So it always made it really difficult for us to actually rent anything because of me.
Well, I think standards are important. I mean, that's why we have the camper now. But I've lived in a yurt, which is a giant tent. I've lived in an off-grid cabin with a human-or system. So I pretty much bounce around to whatever works. But I have to admit, I'm now in my mid-40s, and I have to admit, so I do have some standards, and I think that's why we've gone to the camper instead of a rooftop tent on our Land Cruiser like we used to have. But we were talking. Go ahead.
You don't get any back pains or anything from when you? I mean, if I don't sleep in for example, this week I was in Brussels for some work related trip, and of course I'm staying in a full, a hotel and stuff. But just the fact that I'm away from my own bed, it kills my back every time.
Well,
I can't imagine how it must feel to sleep in a car like you guys do.
You have to remember, it is my own bed, though. So we have a queen-size bed with a feather bed and also a cool mattress topper. So it's
now we're talking. So it's
incredibly
anyway.
comfortable. Yeah, it's definitely, we've made this and designed this so that it is, someplace we can be comfortable. Otherwise, it wouldn't last very long, not just the 4 years we've been on the road.
No, okay, I can see that. So it's not too bad then.
No, it's not too bad. It has, I got stoves and sinks. I miss cooking. That's the biggest thing. I'm a foodie. I love cooking big dinners. We had a big green egg, which is a smoker kind of thing when we had our last house. And currently it's hanging out at my parents' place on loan so that I can use it when I go see my parents. But I look forward to, I would love to have like a gourmet kitchen with lots of counter space. I do think about things like that. I miss cooking, making homemade bread, and yeah. So there are things, you always give up something to go and enjoy something else.
And on to today's topic.
Ooh, bad reviews, Autumn. I don't know.
Yeah.
My God, it's a tough one, isn't it?
It is a tough one. They're so tough to get. And I have to admit, some people read every single review and they obsess over them. I've seen people who keep spreadsheets of them, and I am not.
Spreadsheets of reviews?
Well, that way they know if they've lost any, but that's a whole different topic on Amazon and pulling reviews. They never pull the 1-star ones, do they?
Oh, no.
But
it's a tough one because on one hand, I could say, and this is true, that you're selling books on the internet. So if you can't handle criticism, then you should probably stop now. Because no matter what you're going to do, you're going to get nasty comments.
You are. It's the internet.
It's just what it is.
The internet is just full of people that sometimes they're just mean. You got trolls that are going to just say mean things. And then you just have people who, just because you like it or other people like it, 99% of the people could like it, but there's always going to be somebody who says, this is not my cup of tea, and then decides to tell you the 99 ways that it isn't their cup of tea. And it's going to hurt. But I think we could break this down because there's a lot of different bad reviews. And I think there's a level that are the ones you can ignore. And we've talked about these before because they're the ones that say, you and I write fantasy, and the reviews that start out with, well, fantasy is not my favorite genre, but I picked this up anyway and I hated it. And you're like, why? If you like chick lit, did you pick up my dragon-laced sword and sorcery book? I don't, because it was free, because we both have perma-freeze now. Or it was cheap, or it was on sale, or their best friend loved it, so they thought he'd give it a try. So what are your thoughts on those ones that are just like, you don't even like the genre? Why did you feel the need to go and tell the world that you hated this book?
The one that can really almost make me laugh are the ones where the review starts like this: I have not read the book, but it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Well, those I think Amazon should somehow outlaw just right off the bat, because seriously, you didn't read the book. I think there is a way of reporting them, but I don't think many of us do. But the one thing you should definitely not do is then comment back, because it always looks bad if it's coming from you.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, because I've seen the topic about commenting on reviews coming up several times, where people have been debating whether or not should you comment. I mean, this is only just related to bad reviews. It's also related to, should you comment, for example, on a good review and say, thank you, I'm glad you liked it, or something like that. And for me, it's just a big no. You do not ever comment on a review, no matter if it's good or bad. Don't thank the positive ones, and don't try to defend the negative ones, because no matter what you do, you're going to come out the loser. And as I have said before, reviews are for readers by readers, and that's it. Reviews are not supposed to be for the author. So just leave it alone.
Yes, I agree. And it's so tempting to comment, to say something and, make a comment, but it's not good, bad or good. I've seen people, and sometimes you really want to know because you see something that said, I saw some misspelled words, and I'm like, really? I've had like 2 editors go through this. Can you tell me where? But again, it is better to just let it go, and you're going to have to live with it, because that is the number one professional advice I would say we both can give, is just, you can't comment on reviews. You have to let it go.
Yeah, I mean, it's not for the authors, as I just said, right?
Yeah,
So but I mean, I personally really wish that I could stay away from reading reviews. I mean, because it hurts. It hurts like shit. You put your heart and soul into your books, and then somebody says that this is the worst thing that they ever read, or whatever they might say. I mean, it hurts, and I really wish that I could just stay away from them and don't read them. But honestly, I cannot help myself. I do read them. Wow. And when I get a 1-star one, it hurts. It really does. And, I can deal with it, but it hurts me even more when I hear about the authors who it derails so much that they almost give up. I mean, it's really bad, right?
It is. They talk about needing thick skin or not taking it personally, but they really do hurt when you find out someone. I think it's a comment. The ones that are difficult to me are the ones that really go into what they hated, and it feels like they're tearing you or your book apart. And that is really hard. But again, they have a right to say that because they're readers, and they can say this is what, it's actually very specific advice that someone else reading it might go, oh, I don't care about that. And they might not bother them at all. But I mean, I agree. I like I said, I actually tend not to read my reviews. I go in and I'm like,
I wish I could do that.
It's like when I need to go update my website or something, I'm like, oh, look, there's my reviews. And I'm pretty good at just sticking to the top ones and not looking so much at the bad ones. But I will definitely come back to it, because I think there are some gold nuggets in those that anyone can learn from, writers can learn from, if you can take the pain. But I do remember when I did have my full-time day job, and it would be time for my annual review with my supervisor, and she would comment, like, everyone else was always so nervous to meet with her. And I would say, seriously, there is nothing you can say to me about my day job that is going to hurt more than a 1-star review.
Right.
So,
but that is actually true, and I think because there is a different level of pouring your soul into. You're bleeding your soul onto the page.
Yes,
and that's why it hurts so bad. Of course, it can hurt getting a performance review from your manager saying you're not doing a good job, but it's not like I'm not putting my soul into it, right? No. There's just some sort of difference between all of that.
I think so too. And I mean, even when I always care about doing a good job, but there's nothing like opening up your mind and your imagination and your dreams and sharing that with people and having that rejected, that inner essence of yourself where, okay, so someone didn't like the task that someone else arbitrarily gave to you to get done by a certain day that they arbitrarily made up. There's a lot of arbitrariness around that, but to get pinged on something that you loved, it's really, and that you worked, these books, I know my early books, they would take a year each. So this is something you pour your heart and soul, and sometimes your first book, especially, it can be the most painful because, one, you're a new author, you're just getting to know, what it's like to get 1-star reviews, but also, those first books, they often go through a lot more time and development. I think total, my first book from beginning idea to finally self-published was maybe 3 to 5 years. That's a lot of time for someone to say, it sucks.
Yeah, but it really hurt. I mean, I just pulled up, so I have one of my books called Fantasy Map Making. So it's about how to make fantasy maps. And I just pulled up the Amazon reviews on that one. So I'm going to bleed my soul a bit here. so hang on. But this book is actually an excellent example of what sometimes happens, because this particular book tends to divide the waters. And by what I mean by that is that it's a step-by-step instruction on how to create a fantasy map, but it's not about how you draw a fantasy map. And some people, that's what they want. They want, okay, how do I draw mountains and how do I draw cities or whatever it may be? But that's not what this book is. It's a guide on how to go step by step to make sure that you get a realistic fantasy map that is aligned with real life geography and so forth. So one of the reviews that I got here, one of the 1-star ones, says, "This book falls way short of my expectations. There is no good step-by-step details of actually making the map itself. For example, I'm looking at including a forest and desert region on my map. What icons or graphics should I use to represent these? Nothing even close to that in this book." So I read that and I thought, oh, what the hell? And this is exactly where it itches in me to comment on it, right? Because actually the book description itself says that this is not a book about drawing, and he's commenting on drawing. So it annoyed the hell out of me when I read that one. And so here's another one. "Not actually helpful at all. A waste of money. Very disappointing."
Ooh.
You see?
But what does that tell you about it?
Nothing. But it just hurts.
It does hurt. But yeah, it's hard to say. I think thick skin is hard. People tell you need that, but as an author and as a writer, we are, wearing our dreams on our sleeve, basically. So how do you grow thick skin? Because you need to be close to your subconscious, close to those things that make other people feel inspired or build tension. You're dealing with emotions. Basically, writing a novel is writing out an emotional story that someone else is going to react to. It's, if you could make a record of emotions, that is what a novel is.
Yeah, I mean, of course, this one is a nonfiction book, but there's just something about. I think you were saying before, Autumn, that sometimes you could take something away from the bad reviews and you could learn something from it, and I think there is truth to that. But what I would almost say is that I don't think you can do that with the 1-star reviews. Just as little as you can take the good parts away from the 5-star reviews, because the 1-star reviews are just the haters, and the 5-star reviews are the fans. So if you want to take anything away from any reviews, I think you should basically just make it a habit of ignoring, even though it's difficult. I know it is also difficult for me, but ignore anything that the 5-star says and ignore everything that the 1-star says, and then look at the maybe 2, 3, and 4-star reviews, because those sorts of reviews are almost always posted by people who actually put a bit of thought into it. I mean, they're debating themselves, should I put 2, 3, or 4 stars? And usually, not always, but a lot of the times, when you read the review, it has a bit of thought in it. It's not like the one I just read out loud here. Like, I hated, a waste of money, very disappointing. It's like, okay, fine. But actually, if I wanted to, let's say I wanted to update the book or make it different or whatever, that 1-star reviews tells me absolutely nothing about what I should be doing differently.
True, they do tend to be the short ones, don't they? It's very.
They're just haters.
Yeah, it is very rare to get a really long, well-written, articulate 1-star review. Those are going to be the 2, 3, or 4s. And, I don't think I'm ever going to ignore my 5s because I enjoy reading them, but it's true.
They are incredibly important to get the 5-star reviews. Of course it is, because if you don't have a good star rating on the book, nobody is going to buy it. So, but when I said ignore them, what I meant by that was that if you want to take any sort of lessons away from it, or, learn something from your reviews in the sense of how should I write things differently and stuff like that, then I think the 5-star reviews will be give you as little value or input as the 1-star will, because that's your fans, and they will just write stuff like, I love it, it's amazing, that sort of thing, and that's wonderful, and I love reading those. But in terms of taking lessons away from it, it doesn't really help you much.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's also important as an author. I mean, they're going to hurt. It's best maybe if you don't read them or have someone else read them and give you a little bit of a feedback. But just keep in mind that they're someone's opinion and you're not going to make everyone happy, and just step back from them a little bit. I tried to pull up a couple on mine, and they one just made me laugh because it's like there's no possible way that the 5-star reviews are real. and this is on Born of Water, which has over 214 reviews now on Amazon on the
Why?
US store.
Wow. That's good.
That's my big one. It is a 4.4 star rating, which is fantastic. It has a lot of 4s and 5s. But, this is somebody who did a 1 who said it's absolutely terrible and trashed it. It's actually one of the longer 1-star reviews I've ever read. And, that's fine. Someone's not going to like it. I guess I really have gotten to the point where I'm fine with that. I know I've had enough people say, this is a good book, I really enjoyed the story, that it doesn't bother me that there's going to be a couple people who absolutely hate it.
Yeah, and I don't know, Autumn. I sort of want to hammer home the point for the listener here, because, I mean, I just pulled up a few here, 1-star reviews. It is not your book or my book here, so if you're up for it, let's see if you can guess what these are for. So these are 1-star reviews on Amazon, okay? So this one goes, it's not a short story like I imagined it would be. It's basically just an introduction of a few characters' early life. Very brief and shallow introduction at that. That's what it says. Okay. Can you guess? I mean, of course, you can't guess what book it is because it doesn't say anything. But try to get with which author this is for.
Early life of a few characters.
And now I guess you can sort of lean where I'm going. So it's not a no-name author, of course, since I'm pulling this example up.
Yeah, that's okay. Just out of random guessing, I'm going to say J.K. Rowling's, but I have no idea.
So good guessing. Amazing. Yes, it is. It is short stories from Hogwarts of heroism, hardship, and dangerous hobbies by J.K. Rowling.
Oh my gosh.
So she got that one.
Yeah, well.
And, just one more here. So here's another one. And I'm not going to change any of the words, but I am going to omit some parts of it because otherwise it'll be clear right away what it is. So I'm going to omit some stuff, but I'm not changing any of the words, right? So it goes like this. Loved the first half-ish of the book. Then finally, it's time for the ultimate showdown of good versus evil, and the whole thing is over in like 3 pages. Very well-written book, but that ending did not sit right with me.
Wow.
What book do you think that is?
Oh, I hate to say it. I had that opinion about the last book of the Harry Potter series.
It's not J.K. Rowling.
No, but it's not. I don't know that one. I don't know.
It's Stephen King, The Stand.
Really? Whoa. Okay. Well, I have to admit I haven't read that one, but I know.
No, but my point is just here, if you go onto Amazon, you find your favorite author, find your favorite book, and I can almost guarantee you that you can find 1-star reviews of some of the most famous authors in the world that are getting hammered like the ones that I just mentioned here.
It's true.
And if they get hammered, then, well, you will too. And I mean, it's just what it is, right? I mean, you just have to sort of ignore it and say, okay, fine. Some readers don't like it. And to be honest, your book is not for everyone. And the good news is that it's not meant to be for everyone. Your book is meant to attract the kind of readers that enjoy to read the type of book that you write. And those who don't like it, who cares?
That's right. You have to let it go. And, those reviews are there. They're not going to stop someone else from reading the book. And maybe only if you only have 1-star reviews. At that point, you might want to unpublish, fix things up, change the title, and re-upload it to somebody else. But it's not a big deal. It's not going to stop someone else from loving it. It's not going to stop the people who love it from loving it. And it's certainly not going to stop you, hopefully, from being proud that you wrote it. So don't let them hold you back. And don't let the fear of getting a 1-star review hold you back. It's going to happen. There are some people who just love to ruin your day, and they might end up posting a review that begins, I've never read this book, but you shouldn't either.
Yeah. I'm really conflicted inside because I fully agree, and I really honestly think it is true, everything we're saying. But at the end of the day, it does not change the fact that if I get a 1-star review tomorrow and I notice it, it's still going to hurt. I mean, I can easily sit here on the podcast and say, well, ignore it, and your book is not for everybody. And if you try to please everybody, you will fail. So write to your target reader and not to everybody else. And it's all true. And I honestly mean it, but it's not going to change my feelings.
It's true. It is. Nothing takes away that pain. Maybe go read a 5-star one afterwards and try to focus. For some reason, I love human psychology, and I studied it a bit in college. And I find it fascinating and horrible at the same time that we have such a huge tendency we could have a huge bucket of 5-star reviews and 4 stars and fans who are emailing you and telling you how much they like the book. But it's those 1 or 2 1-star reviews that will ruin your month and make you feel horrible, and they last longer. And stop it! Go read a 5-star review. You have to learn to let it go, and just say, you know what? Maybe the book's not perfect, but I love it, and so loves it, and I'm good with that.
And the funny thing, now that you said that, it made me think that the same thing applies in customer services and customer relationship. You usually say that you need 10 good customer experiences to outweigh 1 bad one. Yeah. So if a customer is upset, you need to give them 10 good experiences before they forget the one that they were angry about. Isn't that amazing?
We're such a negative species. We need to be happier.
Yeah. I could say some nasty things about politics, but I'll keep that out of this podcast.
When some of the stuff going on.
And whatnot. I think we'll keep this podcast politic-free.
Please. Only fantasy politics, please.
That's a good point, actually.
But it's true. And it is, I think I'm going to task all of our listeners, all of them who are readers, go say something nice to someone today. If it's
that's a good idea.
A book you read, go to leave a good review. If it's just someone you meet in the street, I've had some rough times recently. This 2019 is my year of heck, and I am just holding out for December 31st when I can watch that sunset and know that 2019 is behind me. But I'm still kicking, scrambling, and fighting. But I have taken a really big turn this year to be nicer to everyone. I see someone in the store minding their own business, but there's something about them I like. They're wearing a shirt I like, jewelry I like. I've actually been stopping people and telling them that, which is totally not me. I'm an introvert. Cool. I'm an introvert, but this year I've started trying to let people know that, hey, I see that you're another person and life is shit, and hey, but you're cool. You're still here, and I like this about you. So, everyone else do that too.
That's very inspiring, Autumn, actually. I think that's very cool.
Yes, that's where this year has drugged me. I think I will come out being a kinder...
You're going to be a better person now.
I am. I'm going to be a kinder, much more humble, and much more sensitive individual if I survive 2019. And I think I'm trying to spread a little bit of good love. So everyone else, I would be thrilled if you joined me in that, and at least with this week's podcast, and spread a little bit good and make up for some of those 1-star reviews and angry posts that are out there, and tell someone something nice today.
Yeah, amen. And I guess we could say, sort of in conclusion, that, if you can stay away from reading reviews, that's probably best, but learn to accept that the reviews is just a part of author life, even when it is unfair. So try not to get disheartened. And it might just be that this particular person was not your target reader, and so be it, But next Monday, Autumn and I will be back, and we will share our thoughts on how to choose a title for your book. So that should be very interesting.
If you like what you just heard, there's a few things you can do to support the AmWriting Fantasy Podcast. Please tell a fellow author about the show and visit us at Apple Podcast and leave a rating and review. You can also join Autumn and Jasper on patreon.com/AmWritingFantasy. For as little as $1 a month, you'll get awesome rewards and keep the AmWriting Fantasy Podcast going. Stay safe out there, and see you next Monday.